Welcome to the fourth episode of the Metal Roundup. And you may notice, if you're watching this on YouTube, that there is more than just the three usual members. Of course, we have Metal Birb, Drew Fortune, and myself, Steve OG, as part of the usual gang. But today, we have an extra special guest joining us for this conversation in the form of Aussie metal reactor, Rogan Josh. Rogan Josh, how are you, sir? How you feeling? What time is it where you are?
I'm very good. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. It's 6 a.m. I got myself out of bed at 5:30 a.m. Very excited to speak to you guys though.
Well done. We appreciate it. Yeah, it's 6 a.m. in Josh's time. It is 4:30 p.m. in Metal Burb's world, and it is 9:30 p.m. the day before in Drew and my world. The world's a strange place, but this is amazing. We're across the worlds, and we're live at the same time.
It's incredible.
So cool. I'm sorry that you're getting up at 6 a.m. Damn.
No, all good. And it's on the eve of today's. I'm going to see one of the biggest bands in the world today.
Oh, because you've just seen Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah, same venue, but much bigger band.
What?
The Wiggles.
Now the others might not know what the Wiggles are.
Yeah, you've got me, but I just know I've never heard of them, so I get the joke.
The Wiggles. Think Peppa Pig, but in Australia, right? It's a children's TV show. And it's massive.
I'm literally looking it up. I've never heard of the Wiggles before.
That shocks me. They're like, I think they've close to outside the Beatles in kids' albums. They've been around for like 30 years.
No really?
Way. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a comparison elsewhere in the world. There isn't really one.
Well, from what I hear, most people assume the Wiggles are American. And usually, really? I thought you'd all just be like, "Oh my god, like the Wiggles are in Australia," but yeah, they're our like biggest Australian band.
Wow. So you're taking your kids to see the Wiggles, or are you just that big a fan?
I was gonna ask.
It's just
yeah.
me. Taking
me and the wife
guys.
Date night.
Yeah, he's 1.5, and he's loves the Wiggles. So we'll see how he goes.
How does that play out? Like how does it? Because are these concerts catered towards children? Like I'm completely out of the loop with this, so I don't actually know. So they are. So how does a concert like that play out? Is there mosh pits?
Yeah, well, there's dance pits. You know, if it's anything like when I took my daughter, because she's 9 now, she just burrowed in and refused to look, and that was like $100 completely wasted. So we'll see.
Oh no!
Wow,
because it might be quite loud. No.
Yeah. Very not super loud, but so I'm fogging up from the morning dew, I guess. I don't know. So early.
You're looking sharp. I think I got a haircut recently, man. Looking great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you did recently see, I mean, not as big a band as the Wiggles, but you saw Bring Me the Horizon with support from Sleep Token and Make Them Suffer. Was there another band, or was it those three?
There was Dane, but I didn't get there in time to see Dane. I think Dane's a solo artist that has a song with Ollie recently.
Never heard of them.
How was the gig?
So you kind of got me ready for it by saying they're the biggest production in metal right now. And my God, Bring Me 100%. That show is a whole other level. I was disappointed at the start of the show. The first 3 songs, I was kind of like, oh, this is okay. Bass dropped out for a song, so I was very upset. But overall, I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is okay. And then at some point, the front part of the stage kind of drops away, and it's all screens, and they get into the storyline that takes you through the show. The giant like zombie angel shows up, and then it's just bonkers. Sick. Flamethrowers, confetti. It's huge. Absolutely amazing.
It is the biggest, most impressive metal show I have ever seen in my life. Drew saw it as well. You saw it in Dublin, right?
Yeah. I was going to ask, have they been over to Canada with that show, Birb? Have they got any dates lined up with that show?
Yeah, they had a show. I missed it though, but I've seen Bring the Horizon like a few times. Like, I saw them around when they were touring There Is a Hell, Believe Me, I've Seen It. And the production since then, like obviously it's grown so much. Yeah. They still put on one of the best shows easily. Like Drew, you brought your girlfriend. That was her first metal show, right? Because
wow.
Yeah, Brain, like someone's like first concert experience and getting them into metal, like that is the perfect gateway for a concert.
Yeah. The only thing is, I
that
was
or Bad
just,
Omens.
Bad Omens, yeah, and both of them were in that,
Gateway.
so it worked out perfectly. Yeah, so, but Bad Omens, like obviously they have the softer side, but for their live show and obviously their time constraints, I'm assuming for the fact that they're only supporting, but they kind of just went for the jugular with the set. Like there was a lot of heavy stuff. So although they are on paper a great band for like a gateway band, we were like in the standing area, and that was the first mistake I made for like a first show. And I was loving it, but the fact that like she was like a little bit smaller than me, and like I was kind of struggling because we were kind of at the back. We didn't get in early enough, so we were just way at the back, and she she pretty much couldn't see anything. So the whole like performance and performative aspect of the actual show was kind of lost in her a little bit. So I think being up in the standing area would have been a little bit more suited for someone. But like I fucking love this. So that's all that really matters at the end of the day, isn't it?
There you go.
Very nice.
It's an option if she gets into metal as a result.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, but
did you go with some mates there, Josh?
Yeah, I had a good crew, had a good group of friends there. So Benny, that I do a lot of reactions with, who was the drummer in my band, was there, and that was good. A lot of other people's first time seeing Sleep Token as well, because a bunch of us went last year. Controversial opinion, I don't think Sleep Token should ever open for anybody. I think they should just do their own shows. It is not the same when they're just another act on someone else's show. I think you need the ambience and the whole like worship thing. It's a very different vibe. Very different vibe when they're there for someone else.
So you're just looking at vibe and tone. You don't necessarily mean production constraints as well, or is it just in terms of that they are a closer?
I feel like they're a close and an opener. I love when I saw them last year, it was just them. They didn't have an opener. You just rocked up, and it was the Sleep Token experience. And I think it was just way more special. But I guess if you just like the songs and you want to see them live, this was cool. Although they've changed. They're much more, it's a big show. We're up here, doing everything professionally. Last year, they were yelling at the crowd, throwing kicks, going wild on stage. So it's a very different show.
Yeah, I suppose it is more like a TV show concert now. They've got the big lighting and lasers and things, and they're more drifted in the background. And I don't know. It's a different thing. But it kind of is what it is now. They're not going to be able to play small gigs really anymore. And they might do the odd one because they're kind of quirky. But good luck getting a ticket. Jesus.
Yeah,
100%.
I hear you though.
Getting a ticket to the arenas,
like the fact that they're like I've only seen them once, and that was in the Wembley gig, and like just even imagining them, because obviously the only experience I've had with them live is in that massive big arena, and it was all about them. Obviously, health supporting and everything, but like for the majority of people there, it was all about Sleep Token. Like you could have had fucking anyone supporting. You could it could have just been my dad playing the banjo for a warm up, and people like you know what I mean. Like I wouldn't even be there for it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean they literally, I just can't imagine them warming up. I hear what you're saying completely. Like it's just one of those that like,
if only they talked. You imagine Vess would be like, "You all excited for Bring Me the Horizon?"
They don't say anything, right? They don't say anything about the bands upcoming. Like that is kind of interesting. I was supposed to see Sleep Token open up for Issues and Polyphia, I think in 2019. And I remember I was driving with my friend, and my friend was going to pick us up, and I'm just like, "Oh man, we're going to miss Sleep Token." And my buddy didn't care about Sleep Token back in the day, so he just kind of like picked me up a little bit late, missed Sleep Token, and it devastated me. It crushed me. He's like, "Oh, you catch them next year," and then COVID happened. So yeah, so then they haven't played Canada since until this coming year, like next month. But yeah, now he loves Sleep Token, of course. That tends to happen, right?
Yeah.
I remember Ginger was in Adelaide January 2020, and at that point I had never even heard of them. Then I started the channel that year, and they're still not back in Australia yet, so I just missed out on being able to see them.
Yeah.
It feels like everyone's had that story. I had the exact same as well when they were supposed to play Dublin, like in a much smaller venue, and then it got cancelled for some reason, and then they absolutely fucking skyrocketed, and then the only other opportunity I had was the London gig. So everyone just has that little sob story with Sleep Token by the looks of things.
It seems like
not me.
Not Steve.
I was lucky. I was way ahead of the curve on that one. But just by
you
by
live in
sheer
their country too, though.
Yeah. I have massive advantage. They happened to play Download Festival in their early stages, and I happened to, because I've had things where I've discovered a band after I had an opportunity to see them at a festival, and I'll never let that happen again. So now I listen to every single band on a lineup of a festival before I go, and they were one of them. It's like, who the fuck is Sleep Token? And there was like a magazine at the festival and some weird mask thing. I'm like, oh, we got to see this. This looks weird.
Oh, yeah, like
it was
Mushroom
like
Head.
jaw dropping.
What era of Sleep Token was that? Like, what album cycle was that on when you'd seen them?
That they were just about to release the single Jaws, so they'd had
Right.
one EP out, possibly they had 2 EPs out at that stage, and then they were going to come out with Jaws, and then after that was the Sundowning one after another thing.
I think you were at the same concert that Truant was at, the OG Metal Reactor, because he made a video for Jaws, and that's how I first discovered them. And he was talking about Download Festival. So that initial reaction is what I first discovered them and started making videos for them ASAP as soon as the Sundowning stuff came out.
So cool.
Look at this lore going down.
I know. We always talk about Sleep Token, but in fairness, like Josh has just seen them, so
My fault.
Yeah,
Josh's fault. Josh's fault.
and they're great. It's all right. Well deserved.
Absolutely.
Have you, Drew and Birb, have you met Josh before? Is this your first time chatting?
First time.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, I wanted you on the. I
Sorry,
wanted you on the podcast, Josh, but like I haven't gone around to it. I've been moving house in case you can tell that how white I am right now, dude. It's so awkward. It's been such a.
You
shit
look
show.
gorgeous.
Oh man, like the thing was, it's been overcast all week here in Canada, and then all of a sudden, like as soon as this podcast starts, blazing sun. I need to get blackout curtains right now, so yeah, you're gonna have to deal with Casper the Ghost for this podcast.
But Drew, you weren't sure if you've met him before.
For me and Josh, we haven't ever like spoken like this before, but we've been back and forth on Instagram DMs, a few voice notes here and there.
I've just been a fan of his band for so long that it feels like I've known him forever.
I have to explain this one for the podcast for the context.
Sorry.
Please.
I'll explain this one. So I think did I explain this in the podcast before? But either way, I'll just go over it real quick. So long story short, Josh was streaming. I jumped into Josh's stream with my handle, Drew Fortune. And I completely get it because I get streamer brain all the time. And I joined Josh's stream, messaged in the chat, and then Josh was like, "Oh, Drew, I'm a big fan of your band." And I was like, because we hadn't really had any correspondence before, and I was like, did I join a band? I was like trying to think of what the angle was. And then he started talking about Stray, and I was like, oh my god, because I hadn't really listened to any Stray at the time, but I remembered. I was like, oh my god, Drew York is the vocalist, and I was like, oh, he thinks I'm Drew York. So I was like, okay, I have 2 options here. I go along with it, or I tell him. I don't know which one's more awkward here at the moment. So anyway, we ended up. I just kind of was like, I think you've gotten the wrong Drew, and then it clicked with him. So it was a funny moment, and it's one we always go back to. But that was our first kind of back and forth, you know.
How disappointed were you, man?
No, I was way more excited.
Yeah.
I love that song with Siamese. You're incredible.
Oh man, that was funny because it took me a minute to like figure out. I was like, wait, what band did I join? I was like, why does he know? I was like, what happened? And then it clicked. So yeah, it was a fun little moment we had. One little moment.
And Drew is a special one of 2 people I know that does voice messages. The other one, Chris Turner, is the only other person I've ever had that sends voice messages. I love voice messages coming through. Yeah.
Look at that casual name drop. Oh, Chris Turner. Yeah, he sends me voice notes, so I wouldn't worry about it.
I'll do it.
Is this This is a young person thing. I've only learned to do voice notes because of fucking Drew Fortune because he sends them. I'm like, I guess
just couldn't be arsed typing half the time. It's like, hell yeah. Here's the problem. Like, it's just so much easier, lads. Get on it. Like, I feel like that's more of an older thing to do as opposed to like a younger person thing to do. No.
Yeah, I agree. I do it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Voice notes are the best, man. Get on it, Steve. Honestly.
Yeah, come on, Steve. Daddy Steve, come on.
I'm
TikTok
I'm
is
slow.
just
I'm
doing
old and
emojis.
slow.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that kind of thing, there's a really sweet person who comments on my channel recently. They seem to have, they're out of a more advanced age and they have dyslexia. And so they do voice notes, speech to text in the comments. The comments are like Ulysses biblically long and they go off on rambles because I don't think they know where the stop button is for like a speech. And they're so adorable. They're talking about, oh, and my friend's kid, like she really likes Sleep Token as well. And that's how I got into this. But anyway, what's that name of that channel? The Charismatic Voice. Yes, there was a video. I'm just reading this whole thing.
Amazing.
You gotta love it.
Josh, what's the most adorable comment that you've seen on your channel?
The most adorable comment. Oh, I got my first heavy one recently, where someone kind of. I wasn't going to get in on this here, but have you guys ever had one where someone's kind of like the "you saved my life" kind of comment? And I think that they meant in metal generally, but it came on stream and I wasn't prepared for it, and I don't know if I handled it as well as I could. But have you guys had that moment where you've got to?
Well, first, how did you handle it? What was your move?
Yeah.
How did you deal with it?
I just tried to say, so sorry that you're going through such a hard time and glad that I could help. But, I'm sure that it wasn't like my channel. I'm sure it was the song that I was reacting to, or, metal in general. But afterwards, I was kind of like, God, what do you do in that situation?
I think you did the right thing. I think that's all because you won't know exactly what they've gone through and what their experience. I've had, I think, 2 of those. But the thing is, I don't recognize it myself. I don't understand necessarily the gravity of what someone might feel when watching videos that are to do with music that really means a lot to them. Or I've had someone who, I think particularly during 2021 when I started, it was like it was when you couldn't really see that many friends and some people were very isolated, and this was a way of them feeling like they had a sort of friend who also liked the same kind of music, and that really helped them through. Not as extreme as like saved their life, but big help things. What about yourselves? Birb, you must have had some heavy stuff. You've been doing this.
I've had a few. Oh, that sounds kind of like braggy. Oh yeah, I've had a few. No. But Josh, I think you handled it well. Like, I think you're overthinking it. I don't know. Like, it is, especially if it's on a stream, it does put you on the spot a bit because it kind of shocks you. We're so used to people just talking about the music. When they say comments like that or give you DMs about how much your channel has helped them, like I've gotten comments about how my channel's helped them through divorces, through COVID, of course, too, or through the hospital. Like, a lot of nice messages, and those DMs, I do my best to respond to them all the time. I love, I don't know if you guys get these DMs too, but people talking about how they find you and how they found your channel. And I had a really interesting one where this cop from Miami, he found the band Galleons for me. So he was playing it in his cruiser. But the guy in the back seat, like the criminal, was asking, like, "Oh, what band is this?" And he's like, "Oh, it's Galleons." And then he was telling the criminal about me. That's awesome. So now they were both following me. So
that's fantastic.
I'm like, I thought that was a hilarious DM. I love hearing shit like that. Do you guys get stuff like that?
I don't think any of us can follow up on that one, to be honest.
No, I didn't like that.
Streamers. That was a good one.
No.
I don't get so many of how they found me, but like, I do think what amazes me is when they say that I introduced them to something as massive as like Sleep Token. I'm like, how the fuck am I the reason you know what Sleep Token is? They're way bigger than anything I'm doing. It's just, but it's happenstance the way, especially if it's in an alternative rock universe, it's not in your everyday life. So it might be that that's how they get introduced to things. But that's always the biggest honor for me. If someone's like, oh, I discovered like who insert my favorite band here because of your channel, like Ruben or fucking Bill Murray or Sleep Token. I'm just like, well, that's awesome.
I love those comments. I loved Steve. I saw your short about Bill Murray cranking my motherfucking hog, and you just laughing that song title.
I couldn't get through it. Do you all know that? Have you seen this? That he's got a song. His song titles are ridiculous. One of them was called "Absolutely Cranking My Fucking Hog."
Yeah,
is the name of the song, and I wasn't ready for it. It was in the middle of like a long form reaction to a few of his things. So I was like, all right, the next song is, and I fucking cried laughing. I couldn't get through.
Dude, his videos get me.
I know, right? His latest one with the... Sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Oh, the mowing. He's just made mowing his lawn into this hilarious thing. Just making eye contact with the camera, the butt shots, just incredible.
Such gravitas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good word to use, yeah.
Oh, he's amazing.
Drew, do you listen to Bill Murray?
The name rings a bell, which is, it should ring a bell.
Not the actor.
Yeah, it's Johnny Frank that used to be the clean singer in Attack Attack.
The colorful like thumbnails and stuff. I've seen that. I think I checked out the last one. What was the last one called? Give me that beautiful name again.
There was Better Hell. The one that came out this week was Empty Handed.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I haven't heard
dropped
that one.
a new one.
Or there's Blindsided was 2 songs ago.
Better Hell is... Yeah, the Lawnmower song, Better Hell, is actually one of my favorite songs this year.
It's incredible.
It's so catchy. It's an incredible hook.
The most recent two after that as well, fucking brilliant. I think Better Hell just pips it, but it's great stuff. The one he came out with yesterday is yesterday? No, today. It's been a long day. Is fucking gold as well.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear it. I actually want him to continue writing like more country, like rock metal songs. Like the mix of country, he does it really 100%.
Well. Yeah. Listen to the latest one.
Oh, I can't wait. The thing is, I feel like country and metal, we really don't get along, those two groups. So if Bill Murray can bridge that gap, that'd be awesome. Same with like Hardy too and stuff too.
Yeah. There's gold in them hills. Oh, just something I wanted to talk about. The other combination of metal and something else that is kind of unique and rare is metal and violin. Now, Imminence had an album that came out, and it feels to me like I am alone on an island when it comes to my take on that album. Everyone's been calling it like an album of the year, masterpiece, timeless, and I said it was not for me.
Why? Why is it not for you?
So maybe I'm broken inside. That is very possible.
Good answer.
But, yeah, great caveat. I found it kind of a similar theme throughout. I'm sure there's a point to that, of course, telling a story. It's a somber, like war-torn kind of thing. But I struggle to connect with some of that very earnest material. But also, just sonically and thematically, so many of the songs had like busy with double kicks, and then silence, and then back and forth. It was a very consistent theme throughout. And the violin, I think I've enjoyed their songs in the past when it's like a one-off song and you go, oh, this is novel, this is interesting. But as the album goes on, every time the violin comes back in, I got slightly like increasingly triggered by it. I'm like, and there's the violin. It just, I don't know, it didn't really do it for me. I didn't think it was that varied and interesting an album. It was very same. I thought the black at the end stood out a little bit. And there were a couple other songs that stood out to be quite different that I enjoyed. But the rest, I was a little bit, dare I say, bored.
Look, I appreciate your take because me and Imminence, I have a bit of history because like with their album, the last album, Heaven is Hiding, I criticized it for reusing a lot of the similar tropes and hearing a lot of similar ideas that I got bored and not enough variety. And then also my dog agrees too. He agrees too.
Back in your box, Steve.
I know, right? But then also they would always sing or scream the song title in the chorus too.
I've heard that, but
yeah,
I didn't really notice it. I don't really pay that much attention to lyrics. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's more of a lyrical journey than it is a sonic one.
I'm going to go on mic first or mute for a sec.
Okay.
Have you heard the album, Josh? Just so we're not massively spoiling anything for you. If you were planning on checking it out.
So I do an album reaction on each Sunday night, so I'll be doing that tomorrow night. But I've also got a Dola, so I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do first. I'm trying to fit both in this weekend. But I think I've heard all the singles, so that's a fair chunk of the album. I'm a big fan of Eddie Berg. I love his one takes with the cleans, the screams, and the violin. And
so impressive.
I'm pretty biased, so I feel like I'll have an unfairly positive take just because I'm such a fan of him and how he does that, and how unique it is in metal for one. It's almost, for me, they're almost like a solo act, just with his talent, their ability to do all three. For sure. And I love the stance. Like if he's just standing there holding the violin behind his back and screaming, that adds to it for me. I love that. That's
a cool image.
You know? He's a great performer.
It's epic,
they're playing Download Festival, and actually I'm going to see them at their own gig later this year. There's them plus Aviana and Alt, and that's going to be pretty wild. And I'm really looking forward to seeing them live. What is that like live? But yeah, I mean, you're probably going to be ALLT, the Swedish.
Okay. There's an Adelaide Alt, ALT full stop that I love. Okay.
Right. But yeah, like I mean, what's nice for you, Josh, is that if you have seen the Reactor thumbnails of people largely thinking this is a brilliant record, I've helped kind of not have the expectations so high for you. You'll probably end up really liking it. I think that is the general consensus. And I felt bad and sad that I didn't really like it as much.
I felt the same way as about I checked out the what was it? What's is it oralize?
Oralize.
I can't say oralize. Avralize. I'm calling them avralize. They've named themselves avralize. That's what they're getting called. I don't care what it's supposed to sound like, but that's what it is.
I interviewed them 2 days ago. We had the whole debate, and now for the sake of them, I'm going to go with oralize. But yeah, they're like, yeah, everyone calls it avralize, and they're
so they actually have admitted that it's oralize.
Yeah, oralize is what it is. And they literally went
the way you're supposed to spell that, or have they just decided that is?
So the word, they were looking for a good metalcore band name, and they tried everything, and every fucking name is taken already. They eventually found the word oralize, which is something about to realize and to connect with something through sound. And they're like, great, but there's also a band already called Oralize. So they're like, right, why don't we do that thing where you change the U to a V, and we call it Oralize, but it's with the V, and the whole world went, Avralize?
As the person that called his name Rogan Josh, I will step out of this this discussion because
I've never asked you about your name. Why Rogan Josh?
My wife came up with it. It was an Australian football fantasy team, and then when I started, then it turned into my gamer tag on Xbox and PlayStation. And when I started streaming, I just used my gamer tag initially. But it kind of comes from, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fantasy fan. So having the rogue part and Rogan Josh, I don't even eat curry much. Or
I was about to say, all I know is the curry.
Yeah, so it was just a play on words of a rogue and Rogan Josh the food. But at this point, I can't change.
Yeah, no, it is what it is now. Yeah. But do your viewers refer to you as Rogan or Josh or Rogan
Josh? Just Josh, yeah.
Just Josh. Okay.
This was always my I'm pretty sure I only figured out your name was Josh 2 days ago or some shit. I didn't actually know. Right? I'm pretty sure
it's not Steve Rogan Josh.
Yeah, when Steve was because I was like, is it Rogue? Is it Rogan? Is it Josh? Is that just his alias? And he has a different name. I was like, what do we call him? And Steve was like, oh, Josh is coming on the podcast. And I was like, okay, I actually know now.
There you go.
But yeah, there we go. But I don't know if you want to stay on the Imminence album. I thought I'm on the team of. I found it fantastic. I thought it was really, really good. I'm kind of I'm narrowing down what my taste is still to this day to try and figure out why I like certain albums. It's still this thing I have ongoing because there's certain albums that I love that are quite similar to something else, but I won't like the other album. And I'm like, why do I like this but not the other one? And with Imminence, I hear you, Steve, because I think we have pretty similar tastes for most things, I would say. But I hear you with the kind of stop start, there's a lot of really abrasive moments, big walls of sound, but I think they offer me a very similar sonic experience that I get from something maybe not as intense, but something like Ashen by Humanity's Last Breath. It's very doomy, end of the world. This album in particular,
right.
I'm more so talking about that. So it kind of gives me chills. It's I've seen people compare it to All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us by Architects. They've kind of made that comparison about it being very depressing and
apocalyptic.
all of these, apocalyptic. Yes, that's probably a good word for it. But that's kind of what category I put that into. I always try and just categorize why I like certain albums. That would be where I would put that type of album. But they also do have, like we already discussed, the brilliance of Eddie. Obviously, the band is fantastic and plays a supportive role, in my opinion. Eddie's the main character. And there's some great melodies in some of the tracks. But also, there's a very early 2000s metalcore feel to some of the riffs in it as well, which is really, really sick. So it was a great just mashup of loads of fun, different things, I thought. But I can hear why someone maybe wouldn't 100% love it. But for me, it was a really solid album.
It's fair enough.
Yeah, I understand a lot of the sentiments too, because what I was going to say about Imminence and, they sing or scream the song title and all the chorus. And when I noticed that, I'm just that really pulled me away from enjoying the album. I know it seems really nitpicky, but it made the song predictable. I'm like, okay, here comes the chorus and here comes sing or scream the song title. So it really pulled me away from enjoying the album. And then I saw them live and they actually invited me out. They asked me to come out. So we did. They gave me a shirt and we were hanging out. And then we're talking an hour into the conversation. They go just yeah, it's kind of like singing the song title in the chorus, right? And I'm just oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, they really put me on the spot, but they were so nice and cool about it. They were very, very cool. They were just basically saying, hey, if that's the only criticism that we get, then that means we're doing something right. I'm like, yeah, honestly, good point. I want you guys to succeed. It's just when I hear things, I can't help to just say it out loud. Like I have to say it.
Yeah.
But with the new album, it does have a lot of the same ideas of like these metalcore tropes, you know, this long break before he like screams out like this line before it gets into this big wall of sound. Like I hear that idea a lot. You can even look into your video file when you're doing reactions, and you can see the waveform of all these pause breaks. Like you can see the patterns, visually see it. So I understand a lot of the sentiments that you have, Steve, but for me, I feel like this album has just more variety. It's way more dramatic. Like I really feel like they actually use the violin as like a tool this time instead of like a gimmick, because it almost felt a little gimmicky in their previous stuff. But this time they actually like really embraced the violin to their music. And I thought it's easily the best work that I've heard from them. So, but I totally understand your sentiments too.
Do you think that the visual change does anything for you? They've gone from the old world, like 1800s kind of look, to like a 1980s wearing dad's suit kind of look.
That's a good point too. Even the visualizers, right? They're all actually like, you know, black and gray, and it's a very cool look. It's much more mature. I feel like the identity is much more. They're finding their own identity, and a lot of these bands, it takes them a long time. So Imminence has been around for a long time actually, and so I think they finally have hit their true potential with this record, and I think they just got to keep refining on those little tweaks, and then they'll perfect their music.
Yeah, it's clearly connecting really well with most people. Like they've clearly made something great. I think there's just a subjectivity in this that it's just not really kind of my sonic style, because I don't really mind if something has predictable tropes to it. Like I have no issue with, and it's something I'd like to talk about maybe next at some point in this conversation about metalcore in general. Because I think as reactors, we tend to be calling out like, how can let's have something different. We've heard all this before and the rest, but I worry that we might be going a little bit too far down at times the road of like, well, we're critiquing this from an artistic point of view, and therefore we kind of go, we need to push some boundaries and make it different and better and more innovative. But actually, I fucking like, for example, "Cursed by Architects" is not the most innovative song in the world. It's far from it. But I fucking adore it because it is really satisfying. It pays off on all the expectations within it. There's a couple of surprises here and there. But actually, I love that as a song. I don't care how innovative or not it is. But there's other music that I think is not that interesting in a different way. And I think some of that's just aesthetic appeal.
Yeah, I just went in hard on the new If Not For Me album. They are great. They're so talented, but it just sounded like everything else. And I think that as reactors, we just hear so much music that when you hear a full album of this is the same production everyone's doing, it's following the formula. I think that my critique was way harsher than just a regular music fan that likes what they like and listen to modern metal.
Yeah. And it's all subjective. Like everyone has a different palette and everyone has different experiences. And so a really funny thing with Orion Reacts is that we were talking and he told me about the new Bad Omen song. He's like, oh, I hated it. He's like, I'm just like, really? I'm like, I really liked it. But mind you, it felt like a health song.
It's a health track.
With Noah's vocals. So I liked it. He's like, oh, it was so boring. And I told him, like, not every song needs a bled. But then he's like, oh, you check out the new Memphis May Fire? That song was a banger. And I'm like, oh man, I hated that song. Because to me, that was so formulaic. I shat on that song. So everyone is just different, really.
Yeah.
As I said on Drew's stream today, music is beautifully subjective.
Yeah. For sure.
You were chatting about Averlies, right?
Yeah.
Oralize, fuck.
Oralize, yeah, Steve, come on.
Yeah, Oralize.
Yeah.
Pull it out.
Yeah, I don't know. Has everyone here heard the album by? We talked about it briefly, and I think on the last podcast. I think did we for a brief moment?
Briefly as an up and coming interesting band, maybe, but
yeah. But I only listened to it today because today was a bit of a slower week compared to the last few weeks we've had in terms of big releases and stuff. So I thought I'd check out the Idola album today and the Oralize. Why am I saying?
Well done. It's hard.
Yeah. But I checked those two out today, and just both of them, I was just not really into it. Now I don't really like the Swancore thing, so that kind of put the Idola thing out the window straight away.
I know, Josh
is
I'm the same too.
I'm sorry, but I was.
I still don't really know what Swancore is.
Yeah,
I know the definition, but I don't know the music.
Yeah, because I heard The Architect by these guys, and I don't want to spoil it in case you guys are checking it out, but it's just a lot heavier than The Architect, which I enjoyed about it. But I think if you're not into that like newly riff style and vocal style that seems to be prominent across those swancore bands, I think you're instantly just not going to really click with the album. So I couldn't really get into it. But anyway, the Oralize album, I described it as, now again, it's a first listen, you guys know yourselves, sometimes your opinions can actually just be completely wrong, because you'll come back in a month's time and you'll say, you know what, I was actually completely wrong. So I'm if that's the case, then happy days. You know, I've found another band that I absolutely love. But from my first listen to that album, I think the main thing I had for those guys was that these guys are fucking fantastic for how young they are. I think their drummer's like 19. That's what people were saying. Like,
unreal.
So to me, that was the standout of that album. It sounds great across the board. There was very little that I actually hated about it. It was just more so it felt like metalcore and they were really good with like the bells and whistles. That's the way I was thinking about it in my head. They have a lot of like kind of bells and whistles moments, you know? So it's like...
Great way of putting it.
They've kind of like dressed up something that I just felt like I could see through it. Maybe it's just because I listen to an obnoxious amount of music. Maybe more so than the next person who maybe doesn't do this for a living. You know what I mean? So I am maybe jaded by metalcore a lot faster than other people. So to me, it just felt like very, very solid. And I think because they're so young, I'm like, right, these guys have so much fucking potential. And I'm excited to see what they have next. But for me, I kind of could see through the fact that it was just solid metalcore with fun bells and whistles is the best way I could think of describing it, you know?
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So we're somewhat on the same page in that one. That's good.
I love those bells and whistles. I did qualify this,
but isn't that what the bells and, because I know when you were in the chat earlier, like the bells and whistles thing is like not so much a negative term, but they're still just bells and whistles that kind of dress up something that is still kind of something I've heard a million times before. And again, it's not the biggest deal in the world. I'm kind of the problem there because I've heard it a million times in the world, a million times over, but yeah, that's just where I sat with that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's where as well it's about interpretation. Like that your version of hearing those bells and whistles is like, okay, this is a bit of window dressing.
Yeah.
My version of that is, they've been playing around in the studio and they've had some fun with this and they've added some things that actually add a bit of color and interest in a way that I personally get excited by. And I did qualify my rating of the album by saying this rating is going to be a little bit cooked because this is a debut album. And that made it so much more impressive. So I called it, with the context of being a debut album from a bunch of young kids, like a masterpiece fucking start. Well done. But it's also like, it's not wildly insane in terms of innovation and storytelling and the rest.
Sure.
But I loved it from the sound that I adore. And like, we have so many metalcore bands that have really high production quality now across the board. The quality is mad. And we're inundated with a lot of them that have a similar level of quality. So there's a wealth of potential. If you love that sound, there's fucking so much great music out there to enjoy. If you're critiquing that sound, then it's trickier because you're going to start looking at the finer details. And that's going to be what puts someone really high up on a list or really low, is actually fine details, really. Yeah. Or they would have been fine details comparatively like 5 years ago.
Yeah. There's only so many ways you can write a metalcore track, you know, without completely changing the game to the points that it's not even metalcore anymore, you know? So it is what it is. When you're listening to so much, you're going to find similarities across the board. You know, when we listen to so much music like we all do, you know, eventually you're going to run across an album that a lot of people might say, this is the next big thing. But you're like, yeah, look, maybe in a few years they might find, maybe they'll have something that I'll be a little bit more interested in. But just for now, it's just not a bad metalcore record at all.
Let me ask you something, Drew. Are you a little bit burnt out as a content creator making reactions to metalcore bands if you're feeling like it's all samey sounding?
I am and I haven't. I'm burnt out in the sense that I don't get as much excitement from particular, like, maybe breakdowns and stuff in metalcore that I would have really enjoyed maybe a year ago. Like, I only started listening to metalcore in the past 2 years, realistically. I was kind of more prog before I get into metalcore. So I would say, yeah, I'm pretty burnt out by metalcore. But, like, for example, there's a select few bands at the moment that I'm genuinely really excited to get into. Like the North Lane record, when that dropped, we can talk about that one as well. The Imminence one I was pretty excited by because I was a bit split on the singles going in. So that was a bit of excitement. So I think I take my excitement it's a little bit different than the way it was when I first started, where everything kind of excited me. Like breakdown was like, oh my God, like this is so different. But now it's like I try and like, you know, I get more fun out of maybe a band that I didn't really fuck with before that now clicks with me. So, you know, you as you get a little bit older and your taste develops, you kind of find new ways to enjoy it. But I think the like kind of rinse and repeat, like here's the next breakdown and snarl and, you know, call out, it literally it kills my soul to listen to. Like if you know, if we're doing the request streams and we get 10 in a row, I'm just like fucking hell, you know. So that would be where I stand on it. But you know, if I was getting burnt out by it, I would just fucking stop at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I love metal music in general, and I love finding that one band that has just done something that I've never heard before, and I'm like, yes, you like kind of unlock those parts of your brain that you haven't had tickled in a while, you know.
I think keep listening to younger bands then. Because with the bells and whistles from Avrilize, I reckon that's that youthful, like they're taking chances because they're young. Whereas when bands get more established, you get Wage War kind of moving into that. You know, they put on the leather jackets, sing either go dad rock or rewrite their big songs, basically.
110%.
Yeah,
I think that young bands are really important to do the bells and whistles and to be like, hell, saxophone, like whatever, you know, really mix it up
for sure. But just on the counter side of that as well, the more I listen to metalcore, the more I realize, and I've always loved Northlane, but I'm realizing that Northlane are by a country mile my favorite metalcore band. I just think, even though I didn't love the new EP, I still love what they're trying to do. You know, I think there was they fumbled it in certain areas with certain tracks, like the two singles that were released with the EP that weren't or the two tracks that were released that weren't singles. I thought there was some interesting creative choices there, but just where they were going with it, I love the direction. I just don't think it was executed correctly. So just, they're obviously a band that's been around for fucking years. So surprisingly, like I know obviously I get where you're coming from with like the newer bands maybe being a little bit more experimental, but that's why I think Northlane's even more impressive, because they just fucking, they're still leading the charge for me anyway with that like EDM crossover. You know, I love that shit so much.
Yeah, and you liked EDM before getting into metal too, right?
Yeah, so it's just like the perfect blend at the moment. But I did. Have you guys all heard the new EP? Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it.
Just the singles. Just the singles.
Okay. Oh, fuck. Okay, we're just spoiling everything for Josh here. At the
no.
It's completely
fine.
You've said vaguely your opinion, and like my opinion is, I like the other two songs of the new EP. So.
No, I do like them. Don't get me wrong. I just think that there was some weird.
But After Image was like fucking amazing. Dante was great.
Yeah,
my asthma is a fucking bang. Like, yeah, they set quite a stage.
Yeah, they did. They did.
I wish there was more experimentation. That was like the critique that I had. I'm like, if it's going to be EP, I wish they actually got even weirder. Like that one breakdown in that one track that was super weird. That was cool. I wish there was a little bit more like that, because it felt like a culmination of all the stuff with Marcus.
Yeah,
like
it was a consistent rhythmic kind of element to all the songs on the EP, I'd say.
Yeah,
like it's a complex rhythm, but it's a fairly consistent thing throughout the EP, which is a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I just think when Marcus gets into his melody bag, there's like very few songs in the past. Like Dante was stuck in my head and is still stuck in my head since that released, and After Image is now the new song that has replaced that song. And it's not just because I'm a fan of it. It's like those two songs have been the catchiest songs I've heard in the past year and a half, I reckon. It's like maybe there's just something that clicks with Marcus's voice for me and the way Northlane flow, but man, just insane.
He knows what to do with melodies. That was like one of the pros I said about the EP. I'm like, Marcus is the MVP here. His vocals, the melodies, and his way of word, like the patterns, were just so infectious. They were incredibly catchy.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch his tryout video?
Yeah.
When they were looking.
Yeah.
I remember when that came out, that was mind blowing, because everyone else was just doing scream vocals. They were just doing how it had been done previously. And then I remember Ben pulled me aside. We're at a grand final party for the footy. He said, dude, listen to this. And we just listened to it. I was like, that guy should be in the band. That's unbelievable. Like adding the cleans, changing it up. I think he's a real X factor for them.
Wow, you heard it before they dropped Rot. I saw Rot, and then I found his cover or afterwards.
Northlane being, they're like one of the biggest bands we've got. So when and we loved them previously. So when they were going through that, finding a new singer, and a lot of people we knew because we were in the scene at the time. So a lot of friends were putting in submission videos. So
Wow.
like for the Australian scene, following that, like who are they going to pick? You know, where all the best new videos. That was a real big deal at the
You know
time.
what's weird about Northlane is that their bassist, I'm already forgetting his name, but he was a feature on the new EP. But he lived in the same like apartment building as me in Toronto.
What?
And
Right.
isn't that? But it's weird because like Rogan Josh, you're all the way from the other side of the world, and just like I don't know, the world is kind of smaller than we might realize at times.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Definitely.
Some
Have
more
you guys?
How did you discover that?
What's that?
How did you discover that? Did you just see him in a music video and be like, "Hey"?
I was told.
Oh,
I was
shit.
told. Someone told me like, "Oh, he lives in the same building." I'm like, "No way." I didn't, or like in the same complex, but like
Right.
I never bumped into him. But I thought that was really fascinating.
I thought you saw a
and
music
then-
video like that guy never put the bins in the right bin.
Yeah.
Just ruins Northland for Birb. Birb can't listen to Northland anymore without imagining him just putting his fucking rubbish outside, you know, just ruins the whole thing for him.
Put your garbage away. God damn it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Nick Nocturnal lived in the same area too. He was literally like across the street from me.
Fucking
Don't you
hell.
guys have like 10 metal reactors all in the same area? You got Bogdan, Orion.
Yeah, Galactic Criminal is in the same province too. There's a couple smaller reactors too. Like I don't know why, like Ontario too, like has so many metal content creators. Do you guys know Banger TV? They kind of feature more like death metal and metal, just the actual regular metal stuff, but they're Toronto based too. Oh, we have a bumping scene here, just like Australia, but definitely not as huge as Australia.
All right.
It's crazy that like all the bands from Australia too are like always good. It's like a certification on a band. Like, oh, they're from Australia, then I know they're going to drop a banger.
The scene has always been very sick. I was going to say earlier, a band that kind of prepared me for Imminence's screaming the song name was Amity Affliction. They always just start the song with the song name.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let the ocean take me, or, you know, like I have so many anchors. Like it's always, they start the song by yelling the song title, which is an ongoing joke.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that.
I would say
it's-
Ireland needs to do better. I can't name any Irish metal current bands. Like I showed Drew an Irish fucking great new metal band from many years ago called
Sick.
1 Minute Silence. That's the only one I know.
Mm.
Where
It's the
are
only
they?
one I know as well, thanks to Steve. So, cheers, Steve.
All right.
Yeah,
Have
I
you
still to
guys
put the video
seen Dance Gavin Dance have dropped Tillian looking for a new
up.
vocalist?
Seen it, yeah.
Yeah, so like you, Josh, I'm a fan of Swancore. Like before, like it was even Swancore, like Fall of Troy. Did you ever listen to that band?
Yeah,
I
back in
listened
the
to
day,
that.
they were very good.
Yeah, I felt like that band and like At the Drive-In were kind of the
Yeah.
originators of this kind of sound before Dance Gavin Dance with Johnny Craig. So I'm into this stuff, and the fact that they dropped Tillian, it's not a big shock because the history. How many singers do they have, man? Like it's a thing. It's like an ongoing thing with them, so they're used to it. So when they dropped, like honestly, my criticisms for the past two records have been Tillian. I felt like he's kind of, his melodies are getting a little bit repetitive and they're seem kind of like samey sounding. But where Andrew from Idola, anytime he sang on the new Dance Gavin Dance tracks, I'm like, oh damn, give me more Andrew. But then we already have Idola, so I don't want Andrew to be the full-time singer because there's already Idola. But I don't know if it'll be Kurt Travis again, or did you see Johnny Craig said like, hey, what's up in the Instagram?
Yes, dude. I don't want him to join, but I want Downtown Battle Mountain 3 so badly. Just record that, release it, and then get another singer.
Yeah, but they could do that. Didn't they do that with 2?
Yes. Yeah, and I love that album. I think I've got one on the wall behind me. That's one of my favorite albums of all time. But
Yeah,
a lot like Birds as well is one of my favorite bands. So if Kurt
They're
did come
great.
back, that would be incredible.
yeah. Guys, Steve and Drew, are you
I was just-
familiar with Johnny Craig and the history of Johnny Craig?
No.
I watched.
Is this
I
John?
Wow.
watched the recap video on it yesterday, so I'm familiar with the amount of,
okay.
of vocal changes that they've had, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, other than that, I've not really got much info on it. You know.
He's one of the most controversial figures in the scene, and
Right,
always
okay.
will be.
Okay.
Yeah, he's done some shady stuff.
I was about to say,
but
in a
his
good way?
no, in a
No.
terrible way.
Oh, dear.
He's done some scummy things, but his voice is incredible. Like,
Yes.
that's the dilemma.
And he's a natural talent, so he never practices, he never warms up, and he just writes stuff on the spot, and it's some of the best vocal lines, my favorite vocal lines of all
Yep.
time. But then at one point, I remember, if I'm telling you guys this for the first time, incredible. Birb will know this. He was trying to sell this MacBook for ages, and I remember seeing it, and it was like this black MacBook Pro, and he said it has unreleased Dance Gavin Dance songs on it. Like, and you get the songs with the laptop, and it was like $400. I was tempted to buy it in Australia and be like, ship it over. And after months of him trying to sell this laptop, it turns out he sold the laptop hundreds of times, and there was no laptop. He was just taking the money because he was an addict at the time.
Oh, my God.
Oh my
So that-
Oh,
god!
you almost gave him money. No way.
I was going to do Dance Gavin Dance were my favorite band at the time, and I was like, I'm going to get unreleased Dance Gavin Dance songs, ship this thing to
Wow.
Australia. Yeah,
And a
Yeah, you-
MacBook.
yeah.
You would have been
Wow.
feeding his heroin addiction. Yeah.
Jesus
would've.
Christ, that's a fun
Yeah,
story.
Yeah, he's done some shady stuff. Yeah.
He got
Jesus
bailed out
Christ.
by the record label. They came in because he was joining Emarosa. So to keep everyone happy, the record label stepped in and sent everyone their money back, so that they could then
damn.
release the new album with the new band.
Damn,
Well.
I didn't know that.
I missed out on a lot
Scandals.
with this band. Yeah, I've only heard one album from Dance Gavin Dance, and it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It was that really colourful. Was it Jackpot User? That was the only one I've heard by them, so I've missed a lot with that band. But I wouldn't be in any rush back. There's some great melodies. I think that Synergy track, it was so fucking catchy. But
They've got moments. I've enjoyed some moments, but like it's a bit too much for me. It's a bit full on, a bit overly complex.
It might be worth going back to the first album, Downtown Battle Mountain, because it's so different. The last 6 albums with Tillian, I didn't even listen to the last 3. It just turned into all the same, like Birb was saying.
Yep.
Like, it's just Tillian turned all the songs so similar that my favorite Dance Gavin Dance stuff is the first 4 albums were before Tillian. So the fact that you guys have only heard it with him, that's a real shame.
Yeah, the stuff with Johnny Craig, the first album, Downtown Battle Mountain, is goated.
Yep.
And then the Kurt Travis, the self-titled album, is good too.
Yeah.
I like that one. They
Yeah,
have like
hey,
features with like Chino Marino with Deftones on it. and
Yeah,
stuff.
hey, I saw one of those tracks made it onto the metal. Sorry, I wanted to beep it. Metal playlist.
That's so cool.
One of my favorite songs. So
Dude.
very exciting playlist, by the way. I loved it.
So I reacted to it live, and I was thinking about editing and putting it into a YouTube video, but I'm like, I've been talking about this stuff too much. I don't want to like flood my channel with that kind of stuff. But I'm glad that you appreciated the playlist, because I think it's the best playlist I've ever made in my life. Like,
Is this which one? Is this your cum metal one? Was that what
It's the cum metal one. So I found it. Man, maybe I should put it out because I found it hilarious. The fact that you bleeped it out every time, I was like dying laughing. I was laughing so hard. But yeah, like I know, it's just a joke thing. It's just a joke thing that kind of took off. But like, I don't know, the people like cum metal. I don't know how else to explain. When I talk about it, it's just like it. No pun intended. It sticks. Like literally, like the algorithm. Like people like engage with the content. When you say baddiecore, people get a little bit confused. We talk about this on every podcast.
It's my first time talking to you though, and I feel like we have
so.
this like baddie core like connection, like
I'm team
separately.
baddiecore.
Where, yeah, it turns out that especially looking at these playlists like yours and the official Spotify one, I've always listened to baddiecore. I just didn't realize, but those songs, those are my favorite kind of bands and songs, like A Perfect Circle and Deftones. And it's like, oh, I was just like, I don't know, a young horny kid loving like sexy metal and not even realizing, I guess.
Now you're just an old horny man.
Dude, I'm the exact same. I've been following this stuff too. Like I'm also like really vocal about needing more like girls into metal music and stuff. So this like style of sexy metal is like I joke about it. Cum metal is the future, but I truly actually believe it. I think we need more sexy sounding metal music, and it brings in more girls and more variety to the scene.
well, from being at Bring Me the Horizon and Sleep Token, there are many girls in the scene. Like it was almost a 50-50 split. It felt like in the venue.
Really?
There were
Different demographic now, completely.
Oh, it's great.
That's amazing.
And
they're dressed like they're going out clubbing. Like it's not all like girls in like Slayer t-shirts. It's like we're out for the night. It's amazing.
Man, if metal shows could actually start being in like nice outdoor venues and not dingy indoor like rock like dive bars, I'd be so happy for that. Bring Me the Horizon actually did a really cool outdoor like show at like in Madrid. I don't know, but it had like beaches and stuff. I'm like, we need more of that. Girls looking like they're about to go like clubbing or something, and then it's like it's breakdown music, but it's like a nice sunny atmosphere. Oh my god, sign me up.
You want like spring break, but the bands are Sleep Token,
Lorna Shore and stuff. Yeah.
It's a glorious sunny day. In fact, I saw Lorna Shore at Download last year, and it was the hottest fucking day of the year. And it's middle day. It's really bright and sunny. And you've got him, fucking Will Ramos on stage doing the whole like.
That's actually pretty good, Steve.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, clip that part.
It's my Peppa Pig impression.
Oh man. There's been a lot of albums been dropped recently, lads. I feel like we haven't spoke since a lot of big albums have been released.
I've not heard most of them. I've not heard the new Alpha Wolf yet. I want to, but I've not heard it yet.
Right. I have just a list here that I wanted to bring. I've Boundaries, Alpha Wolf, Northdown we've spoken about, Era, Imminence.
Boundaries is on the list.
Boundaries is fucking sick, man.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's
You liked
exciting. It? I've not heard it yet.
Normally,
did you not?
Normally, I wouldn't have been into that kind of shit, man. But it's just undeniable. It is. So it's the ultimate gym album.
Yes.
It's just fucking.
I've heard one track and I fucking loved it. What was it called?
That's funny enough. The one I think I seen your reaction to, Steve. I actually don't like that song. I think it's the drummer's vocal melody in the chorus goes through my head. I can't listen to it, but the rest of the song is great. But I remember when I listened to it the first time, I literally like keeled over. Like I just couldn't do it. Like it's like, oh man, like it sounds like it's like the same kind of style as like Why I Don't Like Swancore. It's like that kind of. I don't know. It's real screechy.
Emo-y. It's the emo.
Yeah. I can't do it, man. But the album's fucking phenomenal. Like even the features and Marcus Vick on it as well is so random, but it just worked. It's pretty cool.
Bro, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Like because Boundaries is one of those bands that like our brain like that classic metalcore sound is just no like overuse of production tricks, no bells or whistles. It's to the point riffs, hard-hitting vocals and lyrics that are super passionate, just so in your face, and it constantly switches it up that it's not predictable. And that's why when you made that video for Throne, who's a band where I'm like, I'm so happy this hardcore adjacent metalcore band is blowing up, but like why? I'm like, their music is good, but I mean, like, there's also Boundaries, and Boundaries is like they're already so many albums deep, and how come they're not even getting the same traction at all? Like, I find that crazy. But I really think Throne is blowing up because of what they're doing on Spotify. They're trying, I think they have some sort of deal where they're trying to get shuffled into a bunch of playlists where it just randomly plays, so it's giving them tons of plays. I think they're getting a cut of royalty. Don't quote me on that, but that's something that I've heard. Yeah. But yeah, it could be also Buster's production. Buster's production with like a hardcore adjacent band is just kind of cool sounding.
Yeah, no, because I seen your comment on my video about the latest track. Have Josh and Steve heard this song by any chance?
So I've only heard one song by Throne before, and I think I gave it a solid. I thought it was decent, but not that special. But they clearly are getting very, very big.
Yeah. Josh, what about you? Have you heard the new track Nights?
I have. I've heard the two singles. I love the old school hardcore feel.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of nostalgia to it. It's very raw and real. It's got that like kind of like rock feel. Although I thought that about the new While She Sleeps album. I loved it. And not a lot of people aren't feeling that, but it's got that raw kind of live, real rock feeling. Not that as much as the, like we were talking about before, modern metal produced feeling. And I loved the new Boundaries tracks.
That's interesting to me. While She Sleeps. I didn't mind it because it's so ambitious, but I did feel like it felt like a little bit too ambitious for its own good.
Yeah, that's like they're trying to innovate. That's to be applauded, and sometimes it hit, and sometimes it didn't, and that's fine. That's all part of the risks. But I've not listened to the album since. There's one song that I hadn't heard as a single that I've listened to since, which I think was called Rainbows, which is really good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's good. But yeah, it's just like, it was decent. It was fine. It's fine.
Go listen to the Flowers again. The guitar work in the intro, I feel like he's doing. I feel like they're doing something real special and unique. Yeah.
Did you see the video where they're showing the
pedal work
and everything they're doing? The pedal work that they're doing whilst it was just like the slow release of it and everything was so sick. I actually only seen that video today. It popped up my Instagram and had like over 130,000 likes or some shit. It's like, I mean, obviously blowing up. People are really enjoying that. So I haven't heard the album yet, so.
I think it's important they do that. The music video is so good that I think it takes away from the song, because it's a very powerful, emotional video. And then I think it's so important that they have this. Oh yeah, by the way, look how technical this guitar line is. Like, everyone's just lying at this. This amazing, cinematic movie story that they've got going on. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, the song's actually very good as well.
Yeah, that's actually a really fun point to talk about, because sometimes when you actually see a live video or just a band perform live, it completely changes your perspective on the song itself. Like, if you see, like for me, like I already love I know I rinse talking about Night Verses, but I loved the album. And then when you see them perform it on Instagram and you can see like Arik, how good he is, you can see the guitar, like, and then you can see them playing together, it just brings that like goosebumps to you, that you're like, oh my God, like this is the physical representation of what I'm hearing. And it just looks as cool as it sounds, So that's pretty sick with While She Sleeps, putting out the videos, because that's what you need to do as well these days. Put out those little small videos, because it's so it's easy to consume as well,
How do you guys feel about the current trend of releasing tons of singles and not even really putting out albums, like aka Bring Me the Horizon? They're just putting out tons of songs to stay relevant. Albums, you can argue, are not really that important these days. Do you kind of... Okay, go ahead, Steve.
I fucking love it.
Oh,
I'm sure I'm not, in the majority here. I love it, because there are some bands or some albums, collectors of works, that I think it makes sense to listen to that as a cohesive storytelling thing, but not all. And actually, I would rather the music be dripped into my ears one by one, so I can pay that song the full attention. And that, because if you hear a couple singles and you put on the album, most listeners, right? We're doing it differently because we're reacting and stuff, actively listening, but you put it on and you kind of, the in-between songs, there might be moments you go, oh, what's that? I like that. That's good. They have to kind of shine out moments. But if you gave it a full attention on its own, that might shine so brightly in the first listen, and other moments that actually gives you more time to appreciate. As soon as they got a song ready, I want them to fucking put it out. The only reason I was chatting to Revnor about this, that albums exist really, is because studio time is expensive and logistically complicated historically. So you'd book a studio, your drummer, you're like, all right, we've got fucking 2 weeks. Let's record the drums to 8 tracks and then do all the guitars to 8 tracks. And we'll put it together and we'll release it as an album, because as well, it's a bulk order to get CDs or vinyls pressed. That's why albums exist. There wasn't the technology to release a song individually. Now that there is, if you write a song and if you can record it remotely, like Rev Noir, they record their vocals over the internet. The fucking vocalist is in his apartment recording the vocals. It's live over the internet onto the guitarist's laptop, and they record it that way. So if he has 10 minutes of inspiration, it's like, boom, in it goes. And once the song's available, I want it. And so does your dog.
I know, right? You want to know why he's barking so much? Is because we just put a new door with a window, and so he sees like I don't know, a squirrel maybe running by.
Intruder!
Freaking out. I know, right? Intruder! But yeah.
What about you guys? Albums versus singles? Discuss.
There's 2 times recently where I've gone back and forth. Spirit Box's EP, where I said, why didn't they just do another 2 songs and make this an album? Error's new album, where I said they probably should have dropped tracks 2 and 3 and made this an EP, because it felt like they just had songs to fill it out to an album. So I guess it's different for every band. Spirit Box has done it every way. They did all the singles, then they did an album, then they did a 3-track EP. The rule book's out the window.
Yeah, it's weird because like Oralize, they released, I don't think I've ever seen this done before, but their entire album is all singles. Like they released every single track as a single. I didn't notice until
No
I was
way, I didn't
doing
know
it today.
that.
Apparently that's the
But
case.
also-
I didn't know it
the
myself.
album.
with a music video as well. Like Sleep Token
Yeah, like,
did that with sundowning, but they didn't really have they had visualizers, but not music videos, if that's the difference.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen all of the videos, but I was told today whilst I was checking it out, I was like specifically mentioning, oh, I've heard this single, or like, you know, of the singles, and they were like, everyone in the chat was saying they're all singles. So
Yeah,
that's news to me. Like 8 singles is you know, I guess, like we were talking about, modern, I guess, younger bands adopting completely new ways of releasing, because as far as I was concerned, that's never been something I've heard of, you know. But there is like sometimes I think singles and EPs don't work, because we've had a very good example, I thought, of Northlane's EP. I mean, the don't work is not a good way of putting that, but like when the EP comes out and there's 2 new songs in it, and one of them is a fucking intro to the track, you're just like, why have I been waiting for this day? You know what I mean? Like, this has been an exciting day for me, and I've gotten 2 new songs. Like, I know I'm a greedy prick for saying that, but like,
that's an
you know, when it's a
expectation problem. That's what that is.
Yeah, but like, it's, you know, you get 3 extra songs, and then you realize, and this isn't just me picking on Northlane. Again, we know I'm a Northlane fan, but that was just kind of like, you know, this day doesn't feel as special when you just get 2 extra songs. You know, it's like, come on. Well,
You
that's my
must
take.
love Galleons then.
Galleons. I haven't heard
Galleons.
any of Galleons, so I know we were speaking about it earlier.
15 songs, 4 minutes every song. They
Oh,
could
that
have
sounds like a
done
lot.
3 EPs.
That's too long.
Yeah.
It was too much. That was one of the complaints that I had about that album. But yeah, and also that was one of the complaints I had about that EP too with Northlane. It was just like, oh, it's only 2 new songs. Like the other song is just the intro to After Image. I'm like, oh. One thing I wanted to talk about with Averlies or Lies. Honestly, people are just going to call them Averlies. Like that's what's going to happen.
I've not heard anyone say Averlies yet, but yeah, Averlies, I would have thought.
Oh, well, I say things so
Americans.
I say things so deliberately. Like the new Wage War song. I'm like, yeah, time to check out Nail 5, and everyone's like, ooh, it's Nails. I'm like, oh, come on, quit switching out the letters, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, Nail 5 sounded cooler anyway to me. But no, my I did a short for Canvas with Or Lies, and
well done.
It was the saxophone part. I think all my clips together has garnered 2 million views.
Woo!
Yeah, like it's insane. So like honestly, there's content for you guys. Just clip your reaction to that. People love the saxophone in that breakdown.
Yeah,
I ain't got the time, man.
Yeah, my editor messaged me. I've got a shorts editor and I don't use TikTok. And he just messaged me last night and said, today's video got 2 million views. I was like, oh God, okay. What is it? It was because Linkin Park apparently he is practicing with a new female vocalist. So he took my reaction to Mike Shinoda did a cover recently with the singer from Stand Atlantic. And he just, thank you, Drift of Voyages editor, fantastic. Just clipped this part of her singing Bleed It Out and wrote Linkin Park's new female vocalist. And of course that attracted attention apparently.
Yeah, of course. That's big news.
That's Birb's next short.
Well, honestly, I know Linkin Park dropped the whole Paper Cuts album, so I do want to check that out. And also, I heard one of their songs is like one of the heaviest songs that the band has written. So I'm actually curious to just kind of hear it.
Yeah. Just to say, you guys have me for about 20 more minutes before I've got all 3 kids getting up. And I don't know, I've actually been a bit nervous. I didn't know if Drew and Birb were going to take me to task about the copyright stuff.
Oh, right. Yes. Because
okay.
we had an interview, myself and Josh, and Birb chimed in with, like, we got to talk, man. What do you want to chat about copyright stuff?
Well, I made the statement.
I'm lost here. Sorry, go ahead.
Wait, you don't watch the podcast, Drew? Get out.
I literally watched the podcast. I told you I watched the podcast when you were in Ireland, Steve. I did. But I just don't recall, like, I feel like, was I calling someone? This is like the moment I was in your stream.
No, it was about how Birb and Drew are championing the cause.
Sorry, yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Let's work better with labels, and I'm on board with that as well. But more that, like, we're trying to find what is a mutually beneficial thing for everything. Josh, you were saying, well, remind me what you were saying about the risk.
Well, I was saying that for the viewer, if a channel is limiting what they are reacting to, what songs they're showing and sharing to only ones that have certain copyright on them or from certain labels, then as a viewer, you're not getting the full scene. You're not getting everything available, and you know how we manage that as channels. But I remember you made the fantastic point of, I do this part-time. So for me, I just pick the songs I like, I put them up there, I don't think twice about it. But for you guys, it's a very different business, really. So the decisions that you're making for, you know, which songs you pick, which labels we work with, how the copyright works, it's very, very different decisions you're having to make. And just wondering, you know, is that impacting the channel? What are you saying? What are your thoughts on that?
It's not impacting the channel because I luckily have almost like a relationship with all the labels that I want to work with anyway. So like I already have the freedom to choose what I want. Like there's one label for sure that really sucks I don't have a relationship with, and that's Solid State. Devil Wears Prada, Silent Planet. So what am I going to do with them? I still don't know. I put Devil Wears Prada on my second YouTube channel where I just took the copyright. It's much smaller. But like what I'm hoping to do is by pushing back on these labels, that it basically kind of gives them like the show their card, and basically like, okay, like they'll fold and they'll start working with us. And eventually that's helping all the smaller reactors too. So like literally like someone like Nick Nocturnal, I can guarantee has a relationship with like everyone. Like he can just do it all. So it's definitely much tougher as a, like, you know, the small channels, especially if you're like just starting out. You're starting out, you take the copyright, but at a certain point when all these labels are reaching out to you, and then you're just like, okay, I'll definitely love to make a video for New Northlane, of course. And then like another label, like they're not asking you to do it, but you're already excited to check out Northlane. I'm going to make a video on Northlane. But yeah, so I think I'm not limited personally. And yeah, I do this full time. So I definitely see it as just like, you know, it helps out what I do financially, but even then it's not even a lot of money. Like it's more just about principle. It's literally about principle. Like the ad revenue that we make from these things is just, it's garbage. It sucks. Yeah. Like that's why we pretty much all of our channels survive through community support, because we're such a niche thing that we do. Like metalcore, metal music is still so niche that we're not going to get tons of views. Like we get really good views for the kind of community that it is, but it's still so small. I don't know. Drew, what are your thoughts? Yeah,
like that, you kind of nailed it. That was the main thing. And look, I listened to the podcast. I was confused. I was like, wait, what did we say? But now I recall what you were talking about. But for me, exactly what Birb said. It's literally like, I did a video on how much money last year I actually made from YouTube over the entirety of 2023. And I can't remember what the figure was, but it was something like, I think around 500 or 600 euro, which is like, you know, that would pay my rent at home for a fucking month in Ireland. So it's not about the money. Like I do this full time, but that's purely off of Twitch and the support I get on Patreon. And I've got a lot of people that are very generous on Twitch, and then I've got a lot of people that are very generous on Patreon. So that is literally my income. So the YouTube paycheck, I don't even have my card like connected to my AdSense, because I let it like build up to a certain threshold and then I'll pull it out on a rainy day, you know, over a couple of months, and it's like 100 quid here or there, you know. So it's completely principle. It's like, you know, I completely understand that, you know, not everything has to be about views and stuff, but it can be frustrating when you do put a lot of effort into a video, as you guys know, and like within a few minutes the label's like, you know, give us that money. It's like 4 quid I might make from the video, and it's just more of a principle thing, you know. I think there's also the argument that I completely get it, because I could sit here and say like, oh, just let us have the revenue. But like what Birb said as well, the likes of Nick Nocturnal, I'm sure, I can't speak exactly for him, but I'm sure at the drop of a dime, he could have any label just say, you know, free, do whatever you want. Like no one's going to push back on him because he has such a big audience. So on the flip side of that, where do you draw the line? You know what I mean? Because it's hard to draw the line then, because it's such entry-level content that literally anyone in the world can do it whenever they want, and anyone can have an opinion, because you can't necessarily have a wrong opinion. So labels do have to have a line somewhere as well. So it is still that question of what the balance is. You know, is there a threshold of, right, well, this person gets on average this amount of views, so this is actually, if we were to pay for marketing on this kind of thing, this is how much this would be worth. So is that worth the ad revenue that they might earn from the video? So there's probably a number of metrics that you could use to calculate it and figure out why. But ultimately, I kind of go through stages of caring. I'm in one of those stages at the moment where I'm just like, upload, I don't give a fuck. It's not worth the actual stress of going back and forth with emails to labels half the time. But then there's the odd video that might do really well, and you're like, do you know what? That's kind of annoying again now because I would have made an extra bit of money for it. So, you know, sometimes the juice just isn't worth the squeeze for me. But yeah,
I did notice recently, boy, what the Plankton SpongeBob medal has now retroactively gone back and claimed the videos. I don't know if it's them or a label or what. So it's a real tricky business to navigate, where it's like, you know, even if you're making the stance and saying I'm only doing the songs, you know, where it works, they can always just go back a month out and add that.
Yeah, change of management as well. You lose the contact and they go, oh, well, all this stuff we're not claiming, let's claim that real quick.
Yeah. Well, no, like, short answer is just I kind of just go through those stages of really caring about it, you know. I'm just like, it's not worth my time this week, but if there's a big release coming out that I kind of have a relationship with the label, you know, and it's also the going back and forth, and like we discussed before, wanting to get on something when it drops and then having to wait a day or two. And if it's on a Friday, which most new releases are, you're waiting an entire weekend for the corporate world to come back to work. And then you're like, what's the point? Just drop it. And then you get the claim and you move on. So that's it, you know.
What I want to say about Boy What, though, you know what I did as soon as I saw those copyright claims?
What?
Unlisted. No, that's not. Yeah, I'm like, no, I found that kind of, you know, I never had a conversation with them, so that, whatever, but like I just personally don't want to see any more red in the back end. Like it's just a goal of mine. Like I'm just trying, but also like I think it's important to be vocal too, and not just bend the back like to like all these labels. Like the more that we push back, the more that they'll listen a little bit. Yeah. So it's just I've mentioned it before, but we have a lot more power than we might realize at times. It like when my first reaction of the year was Bring Me the Horizon, and of course I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be copyright blocked and claimed. This is Sony Music. How can I have I don't have any relationship with them. They're so massive. So I chopped up my video. I did a lot of pauses. I talked in the middle of it. A lot of people were understanding in the comments, like, oh, it sucks that you do this, but I wish you didn't have to pause, but I get it. But then, you know, later on, Sony emailed me. They emailed me wanting to work with me. And then, so that's what I'm saying about that. You might have, or no, you do have more power than you realize.
I think there's levels to this, though. I think it is different
for sure levels.
When you have 129,000 subscribers versus what we're like. Because I've tried a thing recently, like, well, let's do a lot of disputing on things. And like 1 out of the 30 that I disputed, yeah, claim release. Fair point. Everyone else is like, fuck you.
Absolutely. So the bigger that you are, it's cool for people to be more vocal about it and even blast it. Like I did on Twitter and stuff, and like I'm for sure labels saw it. So I think, the bigger the following, then the more people will listen, and then the more labels will pay attention.
Yeah,
I think there's no doubt. Reactors.
There's no doubt that they are getting more in marketing and promotion than the cost that they would lose from not having the AdSense. There's no question about that. I'd love to see a world where there's a new division of the copyright monetization thing, where it's like you can highlight this, a reaction thing early doors. Maybe the publisher gets 10%, reaction channel gets 90%. It's just an automated process. Because I think the stuff is in place so people don't just re-upload an exact music video of their one, and people go and watch that instead, and then they lose all and it's like a confusing thing for copyright, which is the whole point of copyright, is this is my particular content. We're completely changing the content in a lot of ways, but there's no way of handling that currently. And the only old school way is like, well, let's just like do what we know we can do, like have a copyright claim, and we'll get free advertising.
Yeah, but the claims and stuff hurt the bands. I can't speak for every single scenario, but like the one example that I can think of that I've experienced myself is when Bad Omens dropped the Van, that track with Poppy. Like, I understand maybe on a YouTube video, because the whole idea of copyright is that video may be used as a supplement for the original video, hence taking views away from the original video. That's why reaction channels need to pause the video, you know, make sure that it's original content and not ruining or, you know, making it so that they can just listen to your video instead. So TikTok, for example, is like a shortened version of that. And the chances are no one's going to go to TikTok to listen to a song. You know, that's for a clip. So if you're doing a reaction on TikTok, for the most part, it's only going to be beneficial to the band unless you are specifically calling something out about it that is terrible or that's going to make the band look bad. So I uploaded two separate moments of my reaction to Van by Bad Omens, and they did okay at the start, and then one of them like shot up to like 250,000 views, and then they copyright claimed it. So obviously an automated claim, or it was a manual claim. So it was at like 250,000, and then the other one that I did shot up to like 500,000, and the both of them got claimed around the same time, and then they just dropped off. And then obviously someone must have come back around to it, because I was like, this video is clearly garnishing attention. Now, granted, it might just be the Bad Omens fans, but I'm sure of those 500,000 views, you know, just by probability, there's probably at least 50,000 of those that maybe just found this band through that. But then they came back around and cleared the videos. So maybe they got to a point where that video got so big that they're like, why is this claimed in the first place? You know, like, it's me talking over it. It's not replacing the original content. It's showing the band and the song to a massive big audience. So it's just kind of like, you know, it's almost like some of these systems are so archaic that it's actually hurting the label themselves and the band, you know? So
much is not known. Much is all behind the doors. We need to figure out a way of understanding that.
For sure. I guess do we have any like massively important topics before Josh has to go? If there's anything that we like really need to touch on, or if Josh has anything that he wants to bring up with us.
Yeah, you got 7 minutes. What do you want to chat about, man?
No pressure.
I was actually worried about the copyright thing. I didn't know how that was going to go. I don't.
We're all gentle people. Like
I was surprised. I was like, wait, what did we say? I was like, what's going on? No, I don't know.
Let's talk copyright.
I guess it's always amazing, as we were saying before, how, you know, the things that we do and how it goes for bands. I love seeing, I think Birb's probably got the biggest influence on this. I feel like you have the power at the moment to make bands in some cases, because there's some bands like Breakaway where I feel like using our platform and the way that you highlight the band helps them in such a big way. And I don't like have a conversation topic on it, but I love seeing that. Whenever I see that, because I think when I was doing a metal playlist review and I saw Breakaway in there, I was like, of course they're in there, because this is the band that, like, from you supporting them, putting out really tasteful, good clips. Like, I think that I don't want to say it made them, because they're not like the biggest band in the world, but like, I think it really, really boosted them. And I think you've done that just recently again. Was it Avrilize, where you had like the saxophone clip?
Like 2 million views, right? Like, that's
huge.
More than Breakaway. Like, definitely that's had some impact to a band that's upcoming. I really, really appreciate that, man. Thank you. And I loved it when you mentioned that about Breakaway, because like, I noticed a lot of people on Twitter are like sharing their songs, and I'm like, that's really cool, but like I'm almost like the middleman, that it's like almost like a little bit thankless, because a lot of people are like, oh, I discovered this band on TikTok, like, check it out. And it's like, yeah, you're welcome. Because like, when I first made that video for them, they only had 30 views and the song was already out for 2 weeks. And
that's insane.
Did you say 30?
30.
That's amazing.
And then I made the video because like, I'm like, oh my God, it sounds like a female sleep token, because like, I was joking about it in my reaction. I'm just like, what if gent guitars come in, this breakdown happens? And then it did, like, literally right before I said that. I'm like, and I started laughing, like, oh my God, it's the female sleep token, like, as a joke. And I put that as the title, and boom, that title is what made the band. And of course, a lot of people are complaining like, oh, this is their own band, they're not anything like Sleep Token. I'm just like, well, you're welcome, because
no one's watching that if you're not saying something like.
So you can argue about a lot of these titles and things that we do, but I don't know, it's kind of tricky, because they're their own band for sure. But yeah, I helped them blow up, right, boy? Right.
Bill Murray's in the room.
Yeah, I think the most useful thing that I've been doing lately is comparing bands to other bands, especially in titles, for fans of, because people are so attached to the bands they love. If they see for fans of Caskets and Rain City Drive on a video for a band they've never heard, they're, you know, oh my God, I love those bands, I want to hear this. So I think that, I don't think that's like, you know, easy clickbaiting or anything when we say this band's the new Bad Omens or anything. If it's something that sounds like that, the fans want to hear more bands like the bands they like. So I think that's probably one of the most useful like tools that we have, for fans of kind of section. But then of course you get the comparisons.
I agree. Like the titles are like the hardest thing to come up with sometimes, but with a right title, like you can really pull in some viewers. It's all about grabbing their attention. And I don't know, like it's with a breakaway and all these stuff, like it's what helped blow them up. Like I think it's what you got to do these days. You got to compare them to a similar sound, and people get mad at the comments. Like I've gotten a lot of comments, saying like, oh, and like with Averlies, I'm just like talking about how saxophone and metal is cheating. Like, oh, this sucks. Saxophone sucks. Like, why am I seeing this on my feed? Like, you get the negative comments, but then you see the views and the likes instead, and the views and likes are way more than these negative comments. So let those people be annoyed. Let them feed the algorithm by commenting. So,
the larger the audience, the larger the quantity of the small percentage of dickheads. Like that's going to happen.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Well,
I'm
Josh.
scared to jump over to TikTok. After this, I'm going to go and look at that TikTok because I can imagine the Linkin Park faithful's reaction to what could be a possible female singer.
Doesn't matter.
In Linkin
Don't
Park,
read the comments. Don't read them.
who cares?
Maybe I won't. Maybe I just won't read the comments.
Doesn't matter.
Respond to them all.
Yeah.
Put them in their place.
I'm not going to the Wiggles. I'm fighting all day.
I just realized I'm getting blinded by the light over here.
Yeah, my poor bastard.
I know.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for your time and your input and your chat, man. It's been lovely to chat to you. And it's so early, and I know you got a full day ahead of you with kids and the rest. Saturday, no less. Those are long days as a parent. So
yeah, I'm going to be doing the hot potato shortly. I can't believe that reference means nothing to you guys.
The hot potato.
I've heard hot potato. I just didn't know
That's
where
the
it came
Wiggles.
from.
All right. That makes me happy. All right. Fantastic. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was awesome to hang out and meet you guys and chat in person, or as in person as we can get.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm
pleasure.
so glad to finally talk to you, man.
Yeah, you too. And thank you for all the help that like all of you guys have given me as well. But I know that Birb from early on has helped me out a lot over the years, just with you did a video intro for me one year that people love whenever it comes on. I don't know if you remember that. You did a subscribe to Rogan Josh video that I put at the front of my videos, and everyone loves that. Nice. But yeah, no, it's so good to have a community of other people that do what we do, that we can, bounce ideas off of and chat. And yeah, I can't believe this is the first time we're actually talking.
It's cool.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it is cool.
We're figuring it out as we go.
Yep.
No. All right, well, I'll bounce out, but yeah, thank you again so much, guys.
Thanks, Josh. Take it easy.
Pleasure, sir. Take care, man.
Peace, man.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Just the three of
What
us
a
again.
lovely gentleman.
What a gent. What a gent he is.
So nice.
Yeah.
Have we got anything else that we need to touch on? Is there any little even?
Drew is always like, is there anything else, lads?
No,
I've got
over,
nothing.
yeah.
No,
I've got
I
nothing.
mean like we haven't even got a fucking picture yet. We still haven't even done that. I haven't done that, to be fair.
Oh, like a profile picture.
Yeah, profile picture. We're working on that one, lads. We're working on it. I love as soon as Josh is gone, I'm just like leaning back in my chair, like as if the podcast has just ended. Like we're all in here.
Just showing off your bicep. Like.
Oh man.
Anything else going on in your worlds, folks, in the world of metal or your channels? Anything you want to shout out?
Anything else going on? Birb, anything
With
you've
me?
got?
It's just the move. The move has been a big deal for me. Like I moved into this house, and like the first thing that happened was like a flooding because it's been raining all week. Yeah, it's been a shit show. But it's all like kind of cleared out. But then now these things like trying to get blackout curtains is
you're gonna have like sunburn lines across your head.
I know, right? Yeah, so it's been a lot, but at least I'm settled and finally making videos again. It's good, like, when you take a break, and I think it happened to you too, Drew, when you went to Brazil. But like when you take a break, you're like, oh man, it can be tough to get back into the swing of things. You're like, oh, like I maybe I should take another day off. But then like when you're back at it, I'm like, oh yeah. Then I was on a live stream, and I was like, I felt like I was like really enjoying some of these metalcore breakdowns again. Yeah,
you need a break, man. It's good to take it. I think even more so sometimes you need to kind of take them a lot more often than you even believe you should. Like every couple of weeks you really should be. Like I know you kind of treat the holiday once a year as your break, but realistically, and I don't do as I say, as I do, but I should probably take a lot more just time, not even just from like actually working, but just being chronically online, like just being on the Discord, being, editing, being on stream. It's just not great for the brain, So my worlds, I've been boxing a lot recently. I've gotten back into boxing, which has been great. That's been good for the old mental health. Because I'd kind of just given up on the gym. I don't really love the whole weightlifting thing anymore. I had a big period of that, but just something about the cardiovascular benefits of boxing that I've just fallen back in love with again. So that's been keeping me, sane on that side of things. But other than that, man, just same old shit. Nothing crazy to write home about. Me and Steve had our little get together in Ireland. We both haven't actually made any well, Steve's sent me the video for our content, which I'm going to actually put up probably tomorrow, providing I don't get any blocks or anything like that.
I've got a screen recording video I can send you as well. That might be helpful, unless you want to re-record
screen recording video
of the actual music videos, for example.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that should be fine. I could probably put something together. I'll figure it out. But I see
we didn't hit
got
pause,
blocked.
so it's mine got blocked in the US, which is like the largest demographic, so I'm disputing that currently, but that might be up in the next couple of days.
I got nice. Steve to check out Lost in the Static by After the Burial Birb. Thoughts on that?
Never heard them before.
Are you a fan of that song first and foremost?
After the Burial? Come on.
Yeah, okay, that was a silly question. Yeah, that was a silly question.
Never heard them before. It's great.
Yeah, they're just headbangy, awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
You liked it?
Yeah, that was great.
Nice.
It was delicious.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure which one to put in his way, because we had like a little window of time to basically just show each other other tracks in person.
We had like half an hour.
We had like a half an hour, so it was kind of like, I just went through my phone and I was like, this is perfect. Have you heard these? No, go. So yeah, we had a bit of a good time. But other than that, man, nothing too crazy in my world at the moment. That was a nice little chat with Josh. He's a fucking nice lad, isn't he?
So nice. What a good human being.
Yeah. There's a lot of them in our scene, to be fair. This would be a nice little thing to have other people on. Just random episodes. There's so many people we could get on, just for a chat. People that I would love to talk to, but because I don't have my own podcast, I don't really have an opportunity other than just sending people voice notes randomly. But yeah, that'd be great. That would be great.
Well, we'll have a look. We'll see.
I like that idea too.
Yeah. Before we go, or if that's what we're planning on doing, sorry, I don't want to be the guy that's always like, let's go.
Go on.
Who would you guys like to have on? Like just people that you enjoy watching in the scene, I don't really have my list right now, but if you guys have anyone off the top of your head that you'd like love to talk to, that you just feel like you could connect with them.
Well, I sort of already have a list in my head, kind of, because as part of my own podcast, I want to have it mostly be musician focused. So every 3 or 4 bands, I then want to chat to someone else in the scene, like in the Reactor world. So I definitely want to at some point have a good chat with Orion. I've never really talked to him. And Bogdan, I think, is a super interesting individual. Yeah. So that'd be a good chat. He could be a good guest on this one as well, actually. Yeah.
Sure.
Those definitely, they're top of mind for me. I mean, Nick Nocturnal, I don't know. It might be interesting. He's kind of on this other world. Yeah. So I don't really... I don't know if he'd have the time or is it in any way gettable, but also I don't know what that conversation would look like, because he's kind of his own thing.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a great podcast guest. He's been on a lot of podcasts.
I think Nick would come on for sure. I think Nick would definitely come on. But I'm trying to think. There's so many people that I could probably...
Orion is a very smart business guy.
Yeah.
Like, very smart business guy. He's great to talk to.
Ryan would be good to have on as well, yeah. Like, literally, just the most people that... Like, we could have a great conversation with absolutely anyone in the scene. Like, just literally close your eyes and pick one out that reacts to the same stuff as us, and we'd have so much to talk about, because it'd just be nice to hear. It'd almost be kind of cool to just randomly pick some person that makes videos that we all haven't had any conversation with, just to, like, jump on and have a chat. Because, we could literally just talk. We wouldn't need to, like... have all the small talk. We just have so much content to talk about straight away.
Yeah, and in fairness, all of us doing what we do, we are capable of talking with no one to talk to. It's literally just a silent camera. So conversation is not difficult, generally. There'll be plenty to talk to about.
Runty, he'd be a cool guy to have.
Runty would be great, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you
Rachel reacts, although she's kind of on a bit of a hiatus, but she seems nice.
Some great fucking people in the scene. Great fucking people. Dave Wolf would be good as well. Runty would be great.
If you're watching this and you hear your name, like, get in touch.
Anyone who's in the reaction scene, comment and we'll get you on. We'll just have 15 people in the little window, just
that's
loads
the other
people
thing,
talking over each other.
I think this is literally the biggest metal reactor podcast. The four of us all together. I think the three of us already was the
Probably
new benchmark, but now the four. Like,
what
I
else
think
would
that
there
is,
be?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a new thing that we just did for sure.
Yeah.
We're such pioneers.
Do you know who would actually be good as well?
Ooh.
The lads at the breakdown. The lads at the breakdown. Would be
Oh,
good,
yeah.
But
Yeah.
5 people on, like, it was already hard. Like, it's hard with 3 of us because there's like a slight delay. Sometimes I'll talk like right at the same time as when you guys are talking, and then we have that little moment where it's like, but then when Josh is there as well, it's like, and then another 2 people will be fucking chaos, you know. But
No, you go ahead. Sorry. No, wait.
yeah, for sure.
It only happened once, to be fair, with Josh, but I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. I think I just hyper. It's more so I like notice it myself when I'm doing it. I'm like, oh my god, I did it at the same time as this person, but it's like so subtle that no one else probably even notices, you know. But yeah, that could be sick. If there's people out watching, just comment and say, look, I do this. Have me on, and we'll get you on, and it'll be great.
Yeah, and also just comment below that you've gone to this part of the podcast, like this far. Comment that, like,
this is the deep end.
Just say,
the
I
deep
got
end.
through that part. Just say that.
Comment that you got to the deep end if you do. And we really appreciate you.
Or just say
You're our
deep end.
favorites.
You literally just say deep end, so everyone else is like, what the fuck, I need to listen to this whole podcast. Gets our retention up. And then we make loads of money off the podcast. It's absolutely amazing. Like, we've got it fucking nailed in.
Oh yeah, and then we can do our podcast on a yacht. Yeah, sure. All that metalcore money.
Yeah, metalcore money for sure. Our yet to be monetized metalcore money channel. Or metalcore channel.
Somehow this will be copyright claimed too.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Well, lads, it has been, as ever, a joy, and an extra special joy because we had Rogue and Josh. Do check out their YouTube channel. I'll put something in the description with a link to their channels. You can go directly to them and check them out as well. It's been a joy, folks. Thank you for your input, your conversation,
as always, gents.
your opinions. It's good to have different ones as we had today, and it's all part of the fun, all the discussion points. So
absolutely, lads. Well, look, all lovies and leavies. It is 10 past 11 p.m. as it is for Steve. So. It's time for bed, Steve.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, actually, you're probably out partying tonight, are you? Saturday, Friday night. I know.
There's a whole bottle of wine here I need to get into.
Oh, damn.
Oh, man.
Happy Friday, peeps.
Yes, absolutely, lads.
Right, thanks, folks.
All right.
We'll see you next time in episode number 5.
Take care.
Sometime soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Peace.